Guerin Emig with Eric Bailey and Eli Lederman, a couple of friends of mine who write a lot about the Oklahoma Sooners. I occasionally dive in and did so again this week. We're going to talk about that as well as set you up for Bedlam softball on this episode of All Things. Well, no, someone else has All Things Sooners. What are we calling the show, guys? What are we?
OU Sports Extra.
OU Sports Extra.
What, world's best podcast? That we could bring that.
I like that.
That was the one we started.
Yeah, Eric and I did one once upon a time, Eli, while you were, I think you were like 12 years old. The world's best Oklahoma Sooner podcast. So perhaps we bring that back before long. I need
a brainstorming session on this. Clearly, we're so on top of it and organized here.
Yeah. Winging it as always. But that's the best part of the job, right? You wake up and it's a brand new world every day. Listen, seriously, thanks for everyone for watching or listening. You can catch us on TulsaWorld.com. You can listen to us via Google, Apple, and Spotify. We'll get to Bedlam, I promise. But the Sooner Coaches Caravan, I think is what they called it, the OU Coaches Caravan came to Cain's Ballroom last Thursday. We have not reset. I didn't even get the chance to talk about that, so I thought we'd give a quick reset to you fellas as to what you saw or heard between Brent Venables, Porter Moser, and Jennie Baranczyk. What do you think?
You know, Venables was a lot of fun. It was just, it has been every availability, just full of energy. And I tell you, the packed house at Cain's Ballroom is really cool having it at Cain's. Usually it's at a sterile classroom or a sterile meeting hall at OU Tulsa, but Cain's Ballroom was the perfect stage for this. And I really thought that he hit a lot of the same points that he hit during spring football. You know, he talked a little bit about the transfer portal, how it's going to play into effect coming soon, and we'll see how that goes. But then he also talked about how he's really basing a lot of what he does on this football team. You don't only need to know how to play football, you have to have good character. And I think he stressed that over and over during his 40-minute talk to the fans. So I think football-wise, it was just what we've seen as media out in the public in that setting. And you could tell he really thrives in that setting too. And it was exciting. First of 7 stops. So we'll see if stop 7 has that same energy as stop 1, because he's going to wear the speech out. But I think fans will really, really absorb it.
Yeah, who could have known Brent Venables was so comfortable with a mic in his hand? Never would have thought it, ever. But like Eric, like you said, I mean, it wasn't quite the 75,000 who showed up to the spring game, but it was a packed house. The line was down Main Street well before things got started. And beyond Brent Venables, Porter Moser was speaking there for the first time this offseason, where he's now seen 5 guys to the portal. It was 24 hours after Emoji Gibson jumped into the transfer portal. And he spoke similarly to Brent Venables that this is the new reality. And that, there's 2 avenues here. You can either be, as he put it, miserable and complain about it, or you can just, get up and figure things out. So he, I think, like Brent Venables and like most coaches across the country, is going to have to hit the portal. And that's what he spoke about in terms of continuing to build this foundation of a team while, many of the faces kind of keep going in and out. And that might just be the future we have in store.
We all talked to the coaches in an interview setting, and then they presented all 3 for the show. The Caravan was literally an opportunity for the 3 coaches to get on stage with MC Toby Rowland, the voice of the Sooners, and speak to boosters, fans, whatever you want to call them, in attendance. I think they knew what they were getting in Venables just because of the energy that Brent has put out since taking the job last December. They might have the biggest victory from an OU perspective, from a marketing perspective, might have been the segment with the 2 basketball coaches, because the energy and even the chemistry between Baranczyk and Moser was something that was very evident, I thought.
My favorite part was when Porter Moser said, "Let's just get this out of the way." He stood next to Jennie Baranczyk and said, "Yes, she is taller than me." The crowd loved it. But no, the chemistry between the 2 were great. I mean, they were joking, they were laughing, and they played off each other perfectly. Jennie Baranczyk talked about how they both worked late nights with their staffs because they were first-year coaches over last summer trying to figure out what are we going to do. And they leave Lloyd Noble late at night because they were trying to work and get their teams prepared. They went through this together. That's the interesting thing. They were hired just a week apart, and they've been through this journey, this first-year journey together, and they probably know a little bit about what the other's going through. So I had a lot of fun listening to those 2. It was just neat. The chemistry, both are great people. I had an opportunity to get to know a little bit of both of them this past season by covering them, and excited to see what's going to happen moving forward.
To kind of put a bow on that too, someone asked me afterward about Joe Castiglione and just kind of his his presence there on Thursday night. And I kind of thought of it, you know, on stage. I mean, he spoke and he got a raucous welcome himself, but you've got Brent Venables, the coach he hired in the wake of Lincoln Riley leaving, who to this point has just captured the attention of the entire fan base. And then you've got those two basketball coaches who are young, fun, came in at the same time and clearly have a good relationship. And you'd kind of be thinking of, you know, him standing in the back of Cain's ballroom and probably feeling pretty good about, you know, where things stand between those three programs right now. And it was totally on display at Cain's. I mean, the excitement was there. It felt genuine. And so I think it was a pretty good first stop on that Caravan tour that, Eric, as you noted, you know, it's been a few years since they even rolled that out.
Glad you brought up Castiglione. Didn't want to forget the athletic director. Yeah, he too was had his segment. Even carried a guitar onto the stage with him that he claimed was what do you say, Johnny Cash's, and threatened to play. I don't know if he was going to play Folsom Prison Blues or anything like that, but that was pretty cool. I spent some time with Castiglione off camera, so to speak, and we had an interesting conversation about a lot of things that are happening in college athletics. That became a column on Sunday about Josie's feelings regarding NIL. That continued. We don't have nearly enough time to dive into all of that, but suffice it to say, Joe is concerned as some of the other, I don't know if you call them, you know, A-list administrators or coaches. I mean, you hear Nick Saban say things, and Bill Self say things, and Dabo Sweeney say things about sort of the train getting off the tracks with regard to what NIL was supposed to be versus what it's become. But it wasn't just fun and games and an opportunity to sort of have a pep rally, but there were some issues tackled. You guys both mentioned the reference to the portal. Venables did bring up the SEC, but did not make it the headline or you know the story, as a guy named Bob Stoops once upon a time did, an infamous Tulsa Caravan stop. Eric, Venables sort of brushed through the topic as if he knows it's coming, but didn't, I guess, obsess about the topic, and certainly didn't pick any fights.
No, and that's right. I mean, he kind of said, you know, what did he say? We're putting all our chips in. The game's going on. We got our chips ready to play. So yeah, I something to that regard. Yeah, I think Brent understands, and he's known that since day one. And I think the key moving forward is not only what's going to happen when OU goes to the SEC, but when are they going to go to the SEC? We're starting to see reports now where some of those other schools, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, are thinking about trying to negotiate a buyout. What's this conference going to be like if those three are come to Oklahoma, and then you have OU and Texas still there? So there's a lot of questions still moving forward.
You wonder if by one of the future Caravan stops we'll have maybe more of an answer. Big 12 meetings are happening right now. Castiglione's a part of that. That's in Arizona. They'll get together again in Dallas in the middle of June. I get the feeling that we'll know more about the newcomers than the defectors. I have a feeling we'll have that settled, because their buyout situations just aren't the same as Oklahoma's and Texas, for that matter, with regard to moving to the SEC. But it's looking more and more like we'll not just see BYU in 2023, but UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati as well. You guys mentioned the portal, so I'll throw it open to an update. Where are the rosters right now with regard to basketball and football? Eli, let's hear what's going on with hoops.
Well, with men's hoops, it's been since the Sooners got knocked out by Missouri State in mid-March. 5 guys have gone to the portal. The 2 biggest easily being Emoja Gibson and Elijah Harkless. That's 2 of the top 4 scorers from a year ago, including Gibson, who Porter Moser himself, admitted, that he was surprised to see him go to the portal. Emoja Gibson had entered the NBA draft process, but in his own words, not signing with an agent, and then, to quote, with an intent to come back to Oklahoma. He, by all appearances, was going to go get evaluated, figure out what he needed to work on, and then bring that back and try to get a little further down the line next year in Norman. And something changed, according to Porter Moser, and now he's in the portal, and that leaves Porter Moser, without another cornerstone as he goes into year 2. And again, he was asked several times at the Caravan, how do you continue to build a foundation of a program that you've been talking about when you can't keep, the basis of players? Right. And he pointed to the guys who are still here. He's got Tanner Groves. He feels good about Bijan Cortez and CJ Noland after their freshman seasons, but clearly that's not, the top line talent he needs to progress this program in year two. But, for him, he said, it's not necessarily about the faces. They're going to have to hit the portal. That's the reality now. But it's about the guys who are still there maintaining that foundation that they're building. And but Porter Moser, I think, knows it, that he's got 3 or 4 roster spots now that he's going to have to fill and hopefully fill for the Sooners with impact players, because right now this team is certainly shorthanded from where it was, a year ago headed into the season, and there's work still to be done.
Jennie Baranczyk talked a little bit about, continuing that momentum. Portal, they're not going as hard as the men's team because they had so many returners, all the seniors coming back, Taylor Robertson, Maddie Williams, Anna, help me out, Guerin, say her last name. I can't say it. Lanusa. I always hate trying to say her name. I can spell it, can't say it. They're all so Oklahoma really has a strong foundation. They did pick up Ashley Jones, not Ashley Jones. That would be huge news. Aubrey Jones, the younger sister of Ashley Jones at Iowa State. Ashley Jones, of course, is, Big 12 first teamer, big time player. She's coming back for her super senior season at Iowa State next season. But Aubrey Jones is a 5'8" guard. Started 15 games for the Cyclones. And the Cyclones had a really good season this year with the NCAA tournament. Good 3-point shooter. I think it really fits the mold of what Jennie Baranczyk is wanting. She's wanting that shooting, that scoring ability, and she just adds to the weapons that they have. So good pickup for the Sooners, especially someone with Big 12 experience. So that train keeps going on. So excited to see what happens. They have a foreign tour trip in August, so they'll get an early start, and we'll get an early look at what Oklahoma is going to be like through that foreign trip.
And last week, fellas, in football, we were just getting to the news about Cody Jackson transferring, and asked each other where we thought the next possible hole might be. And it turns out that's right on defense with regard to the portal and who Venables is losing.
Yeah, Noah Aronze, I think I'm saying his last name right, didn't play, just got really limited playing time, was at Oklahoma for 2 years, just never saw the field. And we're going to see things like this, just not fits. And it's probably works well for both players, both the player and the team. Just go out and have find a spot, find a perfect home for you. So I think there hasn't been any name departures, which we didn't expect. And the key now is just watching to see who's going to come in. May 1st was the deadline for all these players to get in the portal. So we'll see what happens moving forward with any incoming players.
Okay. One more note on Noah Arinze as well, because for I think last week we've seen the portal and NIL the last 2 weeks blow up into a world we didn't think existed probably a couple of weeks ago, right? But an example of Noah Arinze, as Eric was saying, that's a guy who just needed a place to go play. It probably wasn't going to happen at OU. And on his way out yesterday, right after he, I guess, kind of formally announced it, Oklahoma defensive ends coach Miguel Chavis put out a really nice note about Noah. Just that, he was a kid who was always on time, that he's a kid going to chase an opportunity, all those things. And I think in a portal era where we can lament a lot about it, right? However you feel about it, should players be getting paid? Should they have the freedom of movement? This is an instance where a kid is just looking for an opportunity to go play college football and get time on the field. And I thought that was a nice parting note from his DN's coach for only a matter of months to put out there as he was on his way out the door.
Glad you mentioned that, Eli, because go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I was going to say, go ahead. There was one more player too that we haven't mentioned, was Nathan Rawlings, and I can't say his last name, NRK.
There we go.
Yeah, NRK. Everyone called him NRK. Defensive end, really high regarded recruit when he came. Tall, his length. They were really looking for big things out of defensive end. So he was someone that also last weekend announced he was entering the portal. He didn't get any playing time in his one season at Oklahoma, but again, like Eli said, it's just finding the fits and what pieces work with both for the player and the coach.
Yep. To the point about Chavis saying some nice things about Arinze on his way out, that underscores the fact that it's fine to have the portal, that it's a good thing to give players more freedom to find other opportunities for whatever reason. I mean, well, I don't say for whatever reason. The intent is absolutely right. This needs to tip back toward players and away from the coaches that had so much control over the transfer market up until the portal's placement. I guess it was 4 years ago. Feels like it's been a lot longer than that. Just the same as NIL, I think is a good thing. Let's not to write an on-air editorial here, but there can be things that pop up that are uncomfortable in both instances. portal-wise, name, image, and likeness-wise. It doesn't mean that you completely rewrite the book, though, as a result. There's got to be a way to solve problems without wiping progress off the books, is what I'm saying. And that note that Chavis wrote, or that post that he made on social media about him, underscores that fact. This is still positive. Both things are still positive. We just got to correct some of the potholes that have been created as a result. That's all I'm going to say about that. To softball, gentlemen, we'll finish big because this is a pretty important series this weekend in Norman between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Eli's still writing, helping us out with coverage on OSU spring sports. He can speak to where Kenny Gajewski's team is coming into what is winner take all series for the Big 12 regular season championship. Eric, you of course have been on top of Patty Gasso's program. So we'll start with the Sooners' approach. Are they playing like they want to be playing going into the most important series of the year? And by that, I mean, are they at a point where they should feel fairly invincible here?
I don't know about invincible, but they feel pretty good. I mean, 45-1. I think what they're playing up in Norman right now is just, this is going to be a seniors weekend. They're going to recognize the seniors, your Jocelyn Allos, your players that aren't going to come back next season. And even though there's a lot of softball ahead of them, it's going to be their weekend. So the team is rallying around that. They want to make sure that they send them out in the right way. And they understand the ramifications of this. It's a winner take all series. Whoever wins this wins the Big 12. Just impressed with how they're going about all business, and they understand. And this is really, I think all three of us knew, looking at the schedule, was probably going to come down to this weekend, and sure enough, it is. Impressed with the pitching staff with what they've been able to do. Jordy Ball's really having an outstanding season. Hope Troutwine has a 0.08 ERA. And the crazy thing is you have to have 100 innings to be an All-American candidate. And she would easily be an All-American, but she's only thrown 75 innings this year. And you got to have 100 innings in the regular season. She's not going to hit the mark, just simply because they have so many run rule games. They lost a lot of innings that way. So pitching staff, I think pitching is going to be important. I think pitching almost more important than offense, because you got to really calm those Oklahoma State bats down. And I think that, I think Oklahoma State's pitching staff's going to, challenge Oklahoma. That's going to be interesting. One last thing, I had a chance to talk to Beth Mullins from ESPN yesterday, and she talked a little bit about the series, a story we're going to have in tomorrow's paper. And one interesting thing she says, there's a lot of stars in this game, but in series like this, it's always the player we really don't talk a lot about that makes the biggest plays. So she's excited to see who that one player on both teams going to emerge that's going to carry them, someone we didn't expect.
Yeah, last year, if memory serves right, to Oklahoma's on Oklahoma's side, that player was Nicole May.
Mm-hmm.
G. Juarez, who was the ace of last year's staff, wasn't exactly not exactly. She just wasn't very effective. OSU got to her, also got to Shannon Sale, who was the second starter for Gasso, and it was May, right, who emerged as the sort of the answer against that OSU home run heavy offense.
And May saved Oklahoma. May really did, and she's still on the staff. She's number 3. Not getting as many innings as the other two, but you know what? It's good if you're Patty Gasso. You have her in your back pocket.
Yeah,
proved last year she could come in and make some plays.
Eli, a year ago, Kenny Gajewski came into the series and he got our attention when he said they have what we want. It's our intention, and paraphrasing here, our intention is to take it. They did get the first game of that 3-game series off the Sooners before losing 2 and 3, and then seeing the Sooners win their 9th straight Big 12 championship. Are they in better position this year? And we know Oklahoma is even better somehow because of the presence of ball in the circle. But is Oklahoma State more stocked because perhaps their staff is in better position? Are they more stocked to take what they'd like to get here?
I think the answer to that question is yes, with a slight caveat, and it's the Miranda Ellis caveat, which I'll get to. But you mentioned, Kenny Gajewski reflected those same words yesterday, almost a full year later. We've got nothing other than, he said, uniforms. He thinks OSU brings better uniforms to the table than OU. But he said, other than that, there's nothing that Oklahoma State has that Oklahoma wants. And on the flip side of that, Oklahoma State is chasing everything Oklahoma has: conference titles, everything, national championships. So there's still stuff to chase, and the Cowgirls are still chasing this weekend. And I think this year, Kenny Gajewski has put together maybe his best team yet and his most capable team yet. But they go into this weekend with a bit of a question mark with Miranda Elish because, she's been the two-way star who really, as they've played their best softball this year, she's been right at the center of it, both in the middle of the batting order and in the pitching staff, and probably on one of the very few pitching staffs that can go maybe toe-to-toe with Oklahoma's in terms of depth and quality. But we don't know if Miranda Elish is going to pitch. Kenny Gajewski said yesterday that she's dealing with a right bicep tendon injury. She left with one out to go against Texas on April 24th and hasn't pitched since. And that's a significant issue for Oklahoma State if they're going to have to go to Norman and try to take on a pretty seemingly insurmountable challenge against Oklahoma without one of their best players. It sounds like she's going to be able to hit. That's not a question. And that's big. That's important, especially against the staff that Eric just laid out. But if the Cowgirls really were going to go there fully stocked, it would be with Miranda Elish. There is really that second starter behind Kelly Maxwell. And if she can't pitch, then it really is going to add that burden onto Kelly Maxwell and then to Morgan Day behind her, who we'll see if they can kind of handle that moment.
OSU was coming in off a series loss at Florida State. I don't imagine, though, that the Cowgirls feel any worse about not just their chances this weekend, but long term, Eli, by playing a team as good as Florida State, as tight as they did in those two losses.
Yeah, if you want to look at it was Fridays, they played a Thursday-Friday series. Morgan Day allowed 2 hits that were both solo home runs. And so she pitched great. And she hadn't, for her, she was someone who had seen kind of sparing starts, at least in conference play over the last month. And so for her to get a start in Tallahassee, pitch as well as she did, and you get beat 2-1 by the 4th-ranked team in the country on 2 solo home runs. But I think you can only do so much better than that. And so she could be, Eric talking about that player who emerges. For all the talk about the OU pitchers and about Kelly Maxwell, Miranda Elish, how Morgan Day does with her opportunities, especially if Miranda Elish can't pitch, could be one of those deciding factors this weekend.
Man, I love this series. I love just about any Bedlam hopscotch is fun, right, for everybody. But to me, I wrote it today. It's the second best thing going in Bedlam outside of football is pretty obvious now, right? With especially the rise to prominence under Mike Gundy and Stillwater, and having just beaten OU a year ago. It's still an imbalanced scale, I realize, but I think the folks in Stillwater are much quicker to stick their chest out when it comes to Bedlam over football, and you get the sense they're trying to do that now with softball, and they're getting closer. And Gajewski talks like a coach that is getting closer, and there's a brashness about that. And last year it was over remember Eric, there was controversy as to how the whole series was in Stillwater.
Yeah,
and I don't think that we confronted Gajewski about it, and he said, "I know that they're pissed about this in Norman, but this, we wanted it here. We're going to go there next year." Well, they're going there this weekend. Yesterday, the question that I asked Gajewski before I had a chance to talk to Patty Gasso was, would you like to play the Sooners once they go to the SEC? And Kenny's first answer was, yeah, but you need to ask Patty, as if we've decided we want to do that. I'm not sure they have. And then when the question was asked Gasso, I think that was confirmed, because she didn't exactly say yes, definitely, right?
Yeah.
It was we're going to have to wait and see.
We're going to have to enjoy these matchups while we have them. We know they're going to happen. We need to enjoy each one as a fan. And, I truly believe they're going to play each other at least 5 more times. I'm going to throw it out there, maybe 6. I think that they'll play in the Big 12 title game. I think they'll play twice in the College World Series at least. I think they're going to see each other a lot. Or they'll play each other once, in the Women's College World Series. But I think that this isn't the first time we're going to be talking about a game between these two this year. And it's going to be fun because every game is going to mean something very, very important.
How cool would it be if they played 3 times in the Women's College World Series in the championship?
No doubt.
Right down in OKC, too.
Man.
That's something our state's so blessed. We're spoiled, really. That's what Beth Mullen said. We're almost spoiled with how much tradition and how much talent we have for softball fans. So
yep.
let's just enjoy this next 4 or 5 weeks of softball.
All right, fellas. You want to predict who wins this thing? Do we go there, or is that a violation of the beat writers code?
I think you can make a prediction.
Yeah, you can make. Yeah, well, I will say for Oklahoma, let's just say for Oklahoma to win.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah,
let's do that. And for Oklahoma to win, they're going to have to continue to swing hot bats, take advantage of every opportunity they have to score runs. If it's playing small ball, which they've proven they can do, they'll play small ball. And pitchers just got to do what they've been doing. And it's not going to be easy. So I think that's what it comes down to. And defense. OU has made a lot more errors this year than they have in recent years. So I think that's the key too. You got to make the routine plays. Don't make anything hard. So I think I covered everything there. Offensively, runs. Yeah, I'm really going on a limb here. Defensively, they just have to do what they've been doing and good defense. So yeah, I didn't really help a lot, but that's the coach's answer to your question.
Yeah, I think, all right, Oklahoma State, they're going to have to score more than they allow. And, I think, Oklahoma State is a team that at times this year, by their own admission, has not played like themselves. And that's tended to be when they don't find success. I mean, even last weekend, Kenny Gajewski said, Florida State is kind of a very quiet, he said they almost maybe have assigned seats in the dugout, just that kind of orderly. And that is not Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is loud, they're fun. And when they're playing that way, it tends to breed success. So I think they have to go down to Norman and play Oklahoma State softball. But then after that, I really do think a lot of this could hinge, not just in terms of performance, but even emotions. With Miranda Elish, we know the place she holds on this team, and what that weekend against Texas, they spoke about the Elish wave. And so if she can rally and get out on the mound, that could be big. And then to return to Morgan Day, I think you know what you'll get from Kelly Maxwell. If Miranda Elish pitches and she's healthy enough to pitch, all that is a question mark, but we know what you can get from her. But Morgan Day being that third pitcher who at times this year has looked as good as the other two and at other times not so much, if she can show up, I think that's kind of that path to success for Oklahoma State.
Okay, so it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Norman. 7 o'clock first pitch Thursday. What is it, 6 o'clock Friday?
7, 6, and 4.
7, 6, and 4. And this is on the mothership, ESPN mothership, or what's the
game 1 ESPN, game 2 ESPN 2, and game 3 ESPNU.
I bet they move game 3 off ESPNU. There's my prediction that they'll move game 3 off the U before they get to game 3. How about that?
Yeah.
What's the weather forecast real quick?
Ooh, Eli. We need Kristen someone get Kristen on this podcast.
Oh yeah. I'm not
Tulsa World meteorologist.
I forget that should be that should be a snap of the fingers away now, right?
I know. We make a phone call and get a quick email to Kristen and say predict the weather this weekend.
Yeah.
That might be a neat element. Yeah.
Until we get her, I can fill in as the meteorologist. We've got Thursday, looks clear, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, there could be some rain in the forecast. Morning showers. We're going to be good.
Okay. So
perfect.
We can get the details from Kristen Lang, but Eli's got us covered until then.
That wasn't scientific enough.
That was scientific. I thought it was scientific.
Eric and I are a lot further removed from our atmospheric science classes in school than you are, Eli. So, right? Earth science, physical science. I forget what my class was called at Booker T. I enjoyed English more than science. Let's put it that way. When I was a scholar. One more thing to do, and that is remind everyone that the All World Awards are coming up. This is a very big deal that we put on every summer to honor the high school athletes around the metro from the previous year. I always put on a good show for you. Thanks to our friends at Bill Knight Automotive, our corporate sponsor. We're going to have another program this summer. It's going to be August 2nd at the Renaissance Tulsa Hotel and Convention Center. And if you'd like to get tickets to help honor these young men and women, and you really should, because of not just what they do, but who they are. There's a lot of character in that ballroom that night, not just achievement. You can catch the tickets and purchase them at allworldawards.com. That's allworldawards.com. All right, fellas, enjoy the softball this weekend. We'll talk about what happened next week on the pod. This is Guerin Emig along with Eric Bailey and Eli Lederman. Thanks for reading and thanks for watching as well as listening.